What were some of the best games this year? What were the nominees for Game Awards? We're about to find that out. And with me today, we have Josh from Quest Mode, who is an awesome gaming channel, and he makes seriously sick content, guys. You should really check him out. Josh, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm so happy to have you here. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, my name is Josh, and I run a YouTube channel called Quest Mode, as Tony said. And on Quest Mode, I do mainly preview coverage of upcoming games, but I'll also pepper in the review here and there, and I do top 10 lists as well. You know, I just try to make the best content I can for you guys. So if that sounds like something you'd like to check out, head on over to youtube.com/questmode and give me a view, a like, whatever. Yeah.
It's awesome content, guys. Seriously, he's super well edited commentary and whatnot. And that's why I brought you on, is because I want to talk about the Game Awards with somebody that is very into games, which you clearly are. And yeah, we have 6 categories we're talking about today, though. 6 other ones is on Josh's channel. So this is part 2 of our discussion. If you want to know our thoughts on things like best action game, best independent action adventure, game direction, then head over to Josh's channel on Quest Mode. The card should be in the top right corner as well as in the description, and probably will pin a comment from him too. So you can find that pretty easily. But do you have any thoughts about the nominees this year, just kind of as a whole, you know? Anything that stood out to you before we actually get into 6 categories?
Well, overall, I don't want to spoil it too much, but there were some omissions. Now, some of the games got nominated in like one category, but there were some games that I thought were of such high quality that seemed to kind of be missing overall. I feel like one that we'll definitely talk about and was eligible, even though it came out last year, was Smash Brothers. I thought that that might be a bit more pervasive amongst more categories. And then another one was Fire Emblem. I feel like, you know, that got nominated for Best Strategy Game. And
yeah, Fire Emblem. Yes,
that's not a game we're going to be talking about because it's not in any of these categories. But I honestly thought that might get a Game of the Year nomination. So
serious, yeah. Which we'll get into later. We'll get into that later, yeah. I definitely agree with you about the Fire Emblem thing, to which we have the same conversation on his channel. We introduce other points that stuck out to us, but yeah, Fire Emblem, I was surprised to not see that get nominated for a lot of things that we're actually going to hit a couple of the categories I thought it would be at as well.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know, we'll get into it basically. So let's hit the first category though. Best score/music. And the nominees are Cadence of Hyrule, Death Stranding, Devil May Cry 5, Kingdom Hearts 3, and Sayonara Wild Hearts. And on my channel, we definitely have a prominent Kingdom Hearts community here. I'd say like the 2 games this year for like my community specifically, I don't know if you have any, is Kingdom Hearts and Smash, but this category, I really understand the nominees. Is there anything that doesn't stand out to you here, you think is undeserving, or you have any comments about it?
No, I mean, so score, like a good score will rarely be something I'm just like playing a game and that I remember from a game. So there wasn't anything that really stood out to me as like an omission. And all these games that I have played on this list, I think deserve to be there. You know, if I had to give my 2 cents as to what will win or should win, I think Cadence of Hyrule is a good bet because everybody loves Zelda. The industry loves Zelda, and that gave us like awesome remixes of the that music, which is some of the most beloved music. But and other than that, there's nothing here that really stands out. Other than I will say, you know, I know Kingdom Hearts is the music is such a big part of that game. Those would maybe be my 2 standouts. Yeah, there's nothing here that I felt was missing or that surprised me either.
Yeah, I was actually spending the morning before this kind of like listening to all of them and getting tastes of them, because the only ones I've really experienced was Kingdom Hearts 3 and Sayonara Wild Hearts. But after listening to all of them, I'm like, yeah, these all have very unique sounds. And that's the thing. It's about how the soundtrack flushes out what the game is. And I think all 5 of these do that great because, like you said, Cadence of Hyrule, it's a beat game. So it's like they did a BGM version of that soundtrack to match it all. Death Stranding honestly sounds like Blade Runner to me, and Devil May Cry 5 is hardcore. Kingdom Hearts 3 is beautiful, and Sayonara Wild Hearts is actually my pick for what I think will take it. Because that entire game is a music video. If you play Sayonara Wild Hearts, the entire game, it's only like an hour long, and you can constantly I think there's even a mode where you don't ever have to load the next screen because it's just one continuous music video. That's basically it.
Yeah.
I enjoy some of the other tracks in this a bit more, but I think like for purely what a soundtrack is to do, I think Sayonara Wild Hearts both like a should and will. So
yeah, and I will say that the two games that do so Sayonara Wild Hearts integrates music and the gameplay, and Cadence of Hyrule does that as well. And I think both of those games should get recognized for that. I actually didn't play Sayonara Wild Hearts, so what I said previously might be almost null and void because I do know that music is such a big part of Sayonara, and that's a game I should definitely check out.
Yeah, apparently it's on mobile as well.
It is.
I didn't know that.
It's actually on Apple Arcade, which I pay for, so I could just download it and play it for not for free because I'm paying for the service, but I should check it out.
Our next category that we got, Best Narrative, and we have the nominees of A Plague Tale: Innocence, Control, Death Stranding, Disco Elysium, and The Outer Wild. Not The Outer Wilds, it's The Outer Worlds.
You did it.
I messed it up. That's gonna happen, dang it. He did it on his channel right, and I messed it up. But it's The Outer Worlds. So, these are all pretty good picks. And if I'm not really necessarily surprised by any of these. I think The Outer Worlds is probably my biggest surprise. I didn't know what I would put instead of it, though. Maybe Fire Emblem Three Houses, maybe.
Actually, I think, now that you mentioned it, it didn't occur to me, but I think Fire Emblem Three Houses would have been a great pick because it not only does it have one narrative, it has three. And
you mold it,
yeah, and that's not easy to do. Not that I know. I've never written a video game, but I have to imagine that was tough. I'm glad that A Plague Tale got nominated here. We mentioned on my channel, that's a game that I loved and it didn't get a lot of love, but here it's worthy of a nomination. I don't know if it'll win, but overall, I think that Death Stranding is going to get some votes. I don't know if it should win because Kojima's narratives are so all over the place. And I haven't played Disco Elysium, but it's getting just ridiculously high review scores. So maybe that deserves a nomination. But of the games I played here, it's tough for me to pick. I think Death Stranding is probably likely to win it, and what should maybe The Outer Worlds. I got to agree. It kind of took me by surprise the way it tells its story. It's very environmental storytelling focused, and that's cool that it tells such a cool story that way. So I might give it to The Outer Worlds. Hope that wins, but I think Death Stranding might take it home.
This one's kind of tough to me because I get why Control is here. I get that it has a very... I think of all the games here, I think Control has a very interesting way of telling its story. Very almost noir-like in a sense, but also I don't know. But Disco Elysium has been getting tons of praise for its storytelling, like the narrative that you get to mold in that game. And I don't know, this one's tough for me too. I think it's gonna be between Death Stranding and Disco Elysium, just because people love Kojima with his complicated stuff sometimes.
And I'm not giving Disco Elysium maybe enough credit because I haven't played it, and I feel like that's unfortunately a game a lot of people won't play. I feel like it went kind of under the radar. But I think Control suffers from a similar problem as Death Stranding in that it does tell a good narrative, but it is really crazy, and it's almost hard to follow if you're not paying attention for like every single moment of that game. It's like I heard one podcaster say like it's my favorite game of the year that I have no idea what the hell is going on. And
replay value.
And that's very true. So
I think for this, I'm going to go with Disco. I'm going to go with Disco Elysium just because, and again, I haven't played it, but just the things I've read and heard about it, I checked out like 2 or 3 reviews, and it seems it's so well known for the narrative that you get to control in so many different ways and so much text to read and stuff. But I'm going to say Disco, and I won't be surprised though, honestly, with something else winning. Next topic. Being Best Art Direction, we have Control, Death Stranding, Gris, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, and The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Each of these 6, I understand. And especially if you check out Gris, I don't know if you've seen that, but
it's one of my favorite games of last year. Loved it.
Oh, you played it? Oh, okay, cool. So I just only saw things of it. I'm like, the art direction of this game does look absolutely beautiful. Sayonara Wild Hearts, that is a game I knew when I first saw it. Because I didn't actually play through the whole thing. I got to like try a demo of it when I was at an event, and I was like, oh, this game's getting nominated for art direction.
For the reason I said earlier that Gris was one of my favorite games of last year, I feel like some people, I don't think anybody hated that game, but people who either loved it or were just kind of lukewarm. I was one of the people who loved it, and a lot of it had to do with the visuals. I mean, that game wouldn't have the impact, the emotional impact it does if those visuals weren't as beautiful as they are. So I would hope that Gris or Grease, however Gris, I've heard some people pronounce it, that game will, I feel like it should win. That would be, that would be my personal pick. I think if you're going on graphics alone, Death Stranding is amazing. Control, I don't feel actually did anything really particularly special from an art direction point of view. There are plenty of games that look better than that game. The lighting was cool. You know, there's that.
I was going to say the lighting in that game is something to recognize. I think.
Yeah, it was. And had I played it on like a high-end PC, maybe I'd be singing a different song there. But same with Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, a spectacular-looking game. But in terms of art direction, I tend to think of art direction like Persona. You think of Persona 5 last year. That game,
right?
You can't forget the way that game looks with the animation and the black and red and white color scheme. So I don't feel like there's anything on here that does that for me except for Grease. So
are you going all in with Grease?
I'm going all in with Grease. I mean, it's tough to find another game that's, to me anyway, that beautiful, that gorgeous, and that integrates that art direction with everything else, the gameplay and the storytelling. So that's my pick.
I was very adamant about talking about this category because I love art direction games, because it's to me not necessarily just the graphics, but it's how they present the world, how they present the thing that the player is surrounded by. And like Sekiro's got this really Japanese aesthetic thing to it, and I would believe it'd get it, not just for its graphics, but for like the world design that they made. I agree with you, like if it was purely for graphics, Death Stranding, yeah. I think for me, in that sense, like Persona, like just something with that unique style, I understand Grease. But I'm going to go with either Sayonara Wild Hearts or Link's Awakening, just because I think Wild Hearts has that crazy visual, like, do not play this game if you're on acid or something look to it. It's like just colors everywhere, and it matches up with the beats of the music and stuff like we talked about earlier. And then Link's Awakening, what I think is interesting about that game purely for an art direction, I'm so glad it's here, is because everything just looks like they're toys. It just looks like walking and moving toys and stuff. And that's so weird to see in a game that they're all made of plastic and stuff. If I had to choose one, I'll probably say Link's Awakening, just because I think it's really neat how they made that world look literally like it's just a moving toy box. But it's between those two. The next category we have is Best Fighting Game, to which I am so curious if we are actually going to have a discussion about this one. But we have Dead or Alive 6, Jump Force, Mortal Kombat 11, Samurai Showdown, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Let's move on. I'm just kidding. No.
I mean, I don't think I'd be very surprised, as I think most people would, if anything else won it.
But the thing is I actually forgot Samurai Showdown came out this year, as well as Dead or Alive 6, and I heard great things about those games for fighters. And I heard Mortal Kombat 11 was a great game too. Like, those are great things. Jump Force, however, is not the best fighting game. And it's on Game Pass, so I played it a bit, and I got to play it a couple times at conventions. The fights themselves are cool. They're very flashy, and it's very neat, like Smash Bros, to see certain characters fighting each other. It's got that collaborative sense to it, but in no way... This is almost like that year at the Oscars where Boss Baby was nominated for Best Animated Feature because they couldn't think of anything else to nominate. Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about Jump Force. It's like, it's not a terrible game, but why? But yeah, no, this is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for sure. I think this is an interesting question. What do you think is the runner-up? I think Mortal Kombat 11 is the runner-up.
I would say no question about it, Mortal Kombat 11. Now, I say that I'm not a fighting game enthusiast. I play them casually, and so I haven't played Dead or Alive, haven't played Jump Force, and I haven't played Samurai Showdown. But having played Mortal Kombat 11, I love what NetherRealms does with the stories in their games, the story mode, how you can play through the entire story, get a taste of each character, and they tell a really entertaining story there. With the whole time travel element brought into it, I thought was really clever. So for those reasons, I think Mortal Kombat 11 definitely deserves to be in this list.
The runner-up position.
The runner-up.
It's so funny you built it up like it deserves, and then all of a sudden...
Well, you just can't compete. Smash Brothers is going to go down as not one of the best fighting games ever, but one of the best games ever. That's my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's just amazing what they've done with that roster.
Yeah, and even if you treat it like purely like in this category, just a fighting game, and we talk about multiplayer on your channel, but like I think the options that players have to do these fights is awesome. You already have the biggest roster in gaming history, but you also have... like you can do Squad Strike with your friends, which is a new mode that players don't have to like do on their own anymore. You have Smashdown. You can make your own fighting game-like game with stamina battles now. And it's like you have so many options to do your fights that it's like a no contest to me, even if you ignored what the game does with its inclusions and so on. But yeah, runner-up Mortal Kombat 11. We both agree on that.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to Best RPG, also just that stands for role-playing game. We have Disco Elysium, Final Fantasy XIV, Kingdom Hearts 3, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and The Outer Worlds. I said it right that time.
Nice.
And, you know, on a personal level, I just want to share that I am very happy that Kingdom Hearts 3, that was one of my favorite games this year. And I recognize it's not the greatest of games, but I do love it. And I was thinking it would be nominated for 3 different things. And luckily I got 2 out of the 3 right. And this was one of them. And that being said, I personally don't think it will win this, but I'm very glad it got nominated. You guys, if you're watching this, I'm glad it got nominated. Calm down. But I'm also kind of surprised to see Iceborne here, especially over like Fire Emblem, you know?
Yep. And, you know, I wonder if there was a conversation of, do we give Fire Emblem Best RPG or Best Strategy Game? I definitely feel like it's more of a strategy game.
And it got nominated for Best Strategy Game. We don't have that category to discuss, but it did.
But I'm right there with you. I thought I would see that in this category as well. And
because it really is an RPG, isn't it? Like it's kind of multiple things, but
I mean, it's
very RPG-like elements.
It's definitely not a pure strategy game, and so the question is like, what's the rest of the game? And I mean, you kind of have to say it's part dating sim, like you could even say, like I don't know if dating sim, but there's a lot of just relationship building in that game.
Well, so was Persona 5, and that got nominated for RPG. So yeah.
2 of the games here are actually expansions, which I find interesting. Well, Final Fantasy XIV, I guess, is not an expansion, but that's what came out this year. That's what's kind of keeping it in the conversation.
Yeah, because it's for Shadowbringers, right? That's the name of it. Yeah. And so, Monster Hunter World and Final Fantasy XIV, they're both expansions, and that's why I think it's just interesting that they get to be nominated for Best Role-Playing Game, but then Fire Emblem did not. So I will say that's sort of a snub, maybe.
Yep.
That being said, what's your will and should?
So having not played these, I think what will win it will probably be The Outer Worlds. I feel like that's getting a really good reception right now, and it's kind of top of mind for people. We've talked about this in other categories where it was nominated. Disco Elysium, I feel like based off of what I've read so far, that's probably the game that's getting the best reviews and maybe the best game on this list. I'm not sure how widely played it is, so I'm not sure it'll win, but I would have to say that I think that The Outer Worlds will win. I do want to give a nod to Kingdom Hearts. That game took so long to make. The fact that it didn't, and your audience may disagree with me, but kind of from an outside, I'm not a Kingdom Hearts fan, but from my perspective, I did keep up with the game. It seems like people were more or less happy with that game, maybe given its long lead time and how long it took to make it. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think that if that game lived up to expectations even remotely, hats off to them, you know.
Critics overall said it's a good game, but that's why I'm glad it's here, because I definitely think it deserves to just be here. I personally don't think it deserves to win it. I agree with you. I think Outer Worlds. Talk about the other one now. Outer Worlds is gonna get it, and I just because what you said, like I think it does have a lot of momentum. It's pretty recent too, so it's fresh in critics' minds as well as audiences. And it's by a studio that people love, and I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of like a crowd favorite thing. And I will say I get the feeling, even though I haven't played it, I think Disco Elysium probably should, because I hear that game, for its RPG elements, like it's nominated for Best Narrative as well, but like for its RPG elements and all the things you get to choose and decide and stuff, it sounds like it's a great RPG. So I'll say will, Outer Wilds, should, Disco Elysium.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Let's hit that big category.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, Game of the Year, to which we talk about game direction at his channel. Game of the Year is the overall package, though. We have Control, Death Stranding, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Resident Evil 2, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, and The Outer Worlds. And right off the bat, I just want to share that in my opinion, I don't think Death Stranding or Outer Worlds should be here. Just my opinion. Feel free to agree or disagree.
I can't argue. I don't think Death Stranding, it's like, should it have got, it definitely doesn't deserve to win in my opinion. Should it get nominated?
No.
I don't know. I mean, I'm on the fence. And Outer Worlds, having not played it, trying to think what I read about that game that was negative. I know some people were a little down on that game. It just didn't have that AAA polish, but other than that, I didn't read much. So
it's mostly to me because the two things I thought would for sure be here is Devil May Cry 5 and Fire Emblem Three Houses. I thought those two were for sure going to be in here. And they both got much stronger reviews than Death Stranding and Outer Worlds.
Okay, so when you put it like that, I have to agree with you. Yeah.
See, but that's my thing about when I saw this list here, I'm like, I understand most of the things in here, but when I personally, just me, like if you disagree, it's fine. When I think of Game of the Year, I think of like, this was one of the most universally well-reviewed games this year. And like just for everything. And it was like, but then it's not just about the reviews. Like if it was just about the reviews, then Disco Elysium would be in here.
Yep.
But like, it also has to be kind of like very popular and so on. There's multiple factors to consider, but just, I don't know. I just feel like Outer Worlds and Death Stranding, I'm not saying they're bad games, but just in comparison to like the two I just said, Devil May Cry 5 and Fire Emblem Three Houses, I just feel like they have a bit more universal acclaim. But
yeah. I mean, I on first glance, the game that I was surprised not to see here was Devil May Cry 5. Because if you like the stylish action genre, I feel like it doesn't get much better than that. And so I was surprised to see it not here. Same with Fire Emblem. I mean, I didn't finish that game, but I played enough of it to get hooked by it. And the like we mentioned earlier, the relationship aspect, relationship building aspect of that game really drew me in. Did not see that coming. And anyway, I was disappointed that game didn't make the list. So like I said, when you put it like that, maybe you're right. Outer Worlds.
I swayed you.
Maybe they should do what the Academy Awards do and just make this like a 10-game list.
Like a 10 thing. I like it just 5.
Yeah.
But they got 6, so that's cool. Otherwise, though, I totally get why things are here. I think Control is like one of the most unique games this year in terms of style. Smash Ultimate, go figure, like what it is, literally what it is. I don't mean that like it's so good. I mean like what it managed to do, bringing so many things together. Resident Evil 2, it's like I think the highest on Metacritic of all these. Sekiro, it's just like these don't surprise me. Well, you go first here. What's your will and should, and maybe an hope, maybe.
Yeah. So my will and should. I think Smash Brothers should win the award. I think that is the most impressive. Well-rounded best game. I guess you could make an argument against it for the kind of shoddy online multiplayer.
Sure.
But in terms of just what that game has accomplished with the roster, like I mentioned before, I think that it deserves it almost on that alone. And it's a blast to play. I think that the
gameplay itself is very good. Yeah.
Yep. But Sekiro, man, that game, I can see the judges just going for that game. For people who love From Software games, man, they love those games, and they've changed the industry, and they basically came out with one again that's of the same quality that they've gotten to be known for, and it's just hard to find any you can't poke holes in an argument for Sekiro winning Game of the Year. I think that might win it, but I can't see anything but Smash Brothers winning it, to be honest with you.
I'm hoping for Smash. I am. And that's mostly because I adore that game. That was my favorite game this year. And I do recognize the amount of stuff that Sakurai and his team had to do to make that game work. And it's a celebration of gaming. It really is. And that being said, this is a toss and turn for me, dude. Like, I initially wrote down hope Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, should I gun instinct say Sekiro, just because I think that game really kind of has a great whole package, you know, for what the game is. The entire package, there really isn't anything wrong with it, I feel like. And, you know, like you said, Smash Bros, there is the online, and World of Light was a great addition, but some people thought it got a little bit too long. And like, I admit it's not a perfect game, but I feel like Sekiro, it's not perfect either, but just kind of maybe for what they were trying to do. And then I think I think Resident Evil 2 is going to take it. I don't know why. I don't have a strong reason as to why. I'm literally going with my gut for some reason. I just feel like that game, everybody was so happy with like the remake and like, oh my gosh, we could potentially do this for more stuff. It's got a lot of momentum too. I think it won at the Golden Joystick Awards. Yeah. And it's, again, I think it's like one of the highest, I think it is it's one of the highest rated games on Metacritic right now. It's sold very well. I just feel like it has a lot of momentum behind it from the entire industry, both critics and people. So I'll say will Resident Evil 2, should Sekiro, hope Smash.
Yeah.
I hope Smash. Like, I'll jump up with joy if it's Smash.
And if Smash Brothers wins, I don't know if a fighting game has ever won. I'm pretty sure a fighting game has never won Game of the Year.
It's been a long ass time since that happened. Yeah.
If ever. So, I mean, but I almost
that'd
don't
be so
think of,
cool. Now that you say that, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, and I almost don't think of Smash Brothers as a fighting game. I think of it as just like a love letter to video games and then it's like a fighting game second. But
I'm going to change my should to Smash. You just convinced me.
Yeah. The thing with Resident Evil 2 and Sekiro is they're both action adventures, and I feel like those are the games that kind of have the widest appeal. And for that reason,
typically
I think
get nominated. Yeah.
Yeah. For that reason, I think if Resident Evil 2 or Sekiro, I wouldn't be surprised if either of those won. I do think Resident Evil 2, man, I mean, it's a beautiful game. It nailed that old school survival horror. I'm so glad that they brought that gameplay back. So I wouldn't be disappointed if either of those three won. I will say I can see it happening where Death Stranding wins. I'd be really disappointed if it does.
Same. I'll be very disappointed if it does. I can see it happening too, and I'm going to be very disappointed.
And that's coming from someone who's not
saying it's a bad game. It's just, you know, in comparison to the others as a whole package, no.
Yep. I mean, I love Death Stranding. I'm right at the very end of it right now, and I can't wait to finish it. It's been a great experience, but it's not a game of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah. But we do discuss game direction on Josh's channel here about Death Stranding, which I think that works very well for direction, and you will hear that opinion if you go to the card above or in the description, where you will find part 1 of this conversation. But we want to know what you think will win these awards. And Josh, thank you so much for coming on, dude. I really appreciate it. And feel free to drop a comment here, but just seriously, man, it's been a great conversation. I hope they will check out part 1.
Just thanks for having me. It's been a blast talking about all these games, and I appreciate the invite to do this collaboration. But yeah, head on over to my channel if you want to see part 2 of this video. We talk about game direction, best action game of the year, best action adventure game of the year. So if any of that sounds like something you want to hear us blabber on about, head on over there. And yeah, thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. And you'll find that link down below, guys. You'll see the cards surrounding where you'll find both his video as well as the channel. So check those out. Leave us your thoughts on what you think should be Game of the Year, any of the other categories, or even categories we didn't even talk about it. Leave out those thoughts on this video and his. And don't forget, be geek, be proud, be awesome.